The John Day is very unique. It's entirely undammed. It's right around 8,000 square miles. I'm Spencer Sawaski, hydrologist at the Freshwater Trust. A hydrologist is one essentially that studies water. I'm also a project manager that oversees flow restoration projects in Eastern Oregon. At the Freshwater Trust, we're very active in trying to improve water management. Water is managed differently in the West because it's such a coveted commodity here, and the natural climate of the area, there's no rain typically. Most water used for ag has to be diverted from streams and rivers, as opposed to in the East or the Midwest where you get a lot of natural precipitation. There's always been this real big demand for irrigation water from streams and rivers. That period of greatest demand for water also coincides with excessive water conditions for fish and wildlife. What we're trying to do is try and find a balance between the agricultural use of water and leaving some water in stream for fish and wildlife. We're paying irrigators not to irrigate to put that water back in stream. One of the things about this job is actually the interactions with landowners.
My name is Pat Voigt. Ranching to me is the greatest way of life if you don't mind working 365 days a year. People come to me and ask me because they know I've been involved. And my advice is always, water, it's the lifeblood. You protect your water rights with your life.
A lot of these people are proud ranchers. They've been doing it for 2, 3, 4, 5 generations. To ask them to not irrigate anymore, just for a paycheck, if they're not out actively engaged in the land, they'd lose who they are. Derek and Diane have a couple hundred acres of highly productive irrigated ground. They typically lease out their property. The water agreement makes sense for them because they can still lease out their ground, and they can also make some money by putting that water in stream. It's a good example of that balancing act.
We want to establish, in terms of a conservation easement, think that would be a way to help future generations maintain an eye towards a balanced ecosystem and production at the same time.
Just try to be good stewards of the land.
Pat had one of our most noteworthy deals. It was a permanent change to his water right. He no longer irrigates after the 25th of July. It's forever.
Some people wouldn't even think about it. But what built trust for me with the Freshwater Trust was the people that came to deal with me. I saw those people to be here to help, not to hinder. So we got together on a water deal, which is still in effect.
At its core, a water lease is paying an irrigator not to irrigate. So we're trying to find an effective balance that works for both for fish and for the irrigators. In terms of hurdles, one is just the funding. Water is shockingly expensive, and so the biggest hurdle is acquiring those funds to actually go out and solicit these deals. Second hurdle is getting buy-in from the actual irrigators. The way we develop a potential project is we prioritize all of the different water rights in a basin and combine that with the biological need for water, and then start doing some landowner outreach. We have a meeting, usually tour the property. Sometimes that's all it takes. Other times it can be a multi-year process to cultivate this relationship with the landowner and kind of ease them into it. When we finally do progress into a project, we do a 1-year agreement, and ultimately we try and advance that to a multi-year deal. Our long-term goal is to convert it into a decades-long agreement or potentially a permanent agreement.
Ranchers and conservationists need to work together for one reason. They're working for the same thing. Ranchers are conservationists. We all want clean air and clean water. And ranchers need to work with certain groups to show that conservation and agriculture can coexist. So I think it's extremely important that we at least talk. Because I've learned a lot talking to people from Freshwater Trust. And you learn not just science, but you learn other people's perspective. And I personally believe that we need to maintain the quality and the quantity of water out here.